This episode is sponsored by me. I'm currently searching for just the right dental associate for my practice group in the Prescott, Arizona area. Come work with me and my incredible team and enjoy 277 days of sunshine in our mile-high, near-perfect four-season climate. We have world-class hiking and golf, as well as incredible activities for the year-round active outdoors person. We offer business, clinical, continuing education and mentorship, medical, dental, and 3% 401k match, as well as very competitive compensation and the opportunity for a moving stipend and signing bonus. This is the opportunity of a lifetime for just the right candidate. If you're interested, send your CV and cover letter to Prescott Associate, PRSCOTT Associate @gmail.com. That's Prescott Associate @gmail.com. Look forward to hearing from you soon. This episode is being brought to you by our good friends over at DDS Lab. Since 2005, DDS Lab has been dedicated to an unparalleled commitment to service. The DDS Lab team works closely with their lab partners to provide a tailored experience. Whether you know exactly what you need or are seeking advice on a complex case, training and educational services, or a friendly partner, DDS Lab is here for you. They understand that healthy smiles make a difference in patients' lives, and they're passionate about providing the best possible outcomes. On a personal note, DDS has been my lab of choice for 3 years now, and I'm more than satisfied with their pricing, quality fabrication, and prompt turnaround time. For more information or to request a starter kit, just go to ddslab.com. That's ddslab.com, or call them at 877-337-7800.
The Dentalpreneur Podcast. Okay, doctor, it's time to put down that handpiece. You're listening to the show dedicated to helping dentists get their lives back. It's time to decrease your stress, increase your profitability, and regain your passion. Now introducing your host, Dr. Mark Costas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dentalpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Costas. We have a very, very interesting guest today. I'm really excited to dig into some of her areas of expertise. Today, we have Aurora Winter with us. Aurora combines the best of Silicon Valley with the best of Hollywood. Using her expertise in film and neuroscience, she helps people to tell memorable stories that build brands, books, and businesses. Experts turn their words into wealth. Aurora helps people increase their income, impact, and influence with the right words. Great leaders are great storytellers. A leader who is a published author and a powerful public speaker has a huge advantage in marketing, sales, and advertising. Through her books, courses, and one-on-one coaching, Aurora trains people to create a clear, concise, and compelling message. She is the author of 6 books, including Thought Leader Launch and Marketing Fast Track. Her latest book, Turn Words into Wealth, has won multiple awards, including the Best Business Book Award from Pinnacle and Literary Titan Book Awards. Welcome to the podcast, Aurora. How are you doing today?
Mark, it's really great to be on the podcast with you. And you actually exemplify, the value of being a great speaker and a published author, because you are both. And congratulations on your long-standing podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. We're so glad to have you today. Yes. I will say that many of us, right? I'm sure a lot of people that you bump into have this dream of becoming a someday author. And sadly enough, you hear a lot of people say that, they go to their deathbed having unfulfilled that one wish. So tell us how it is that you work with professionals or people that are interested in telling their story to potentially either build their business or to just get it out of their own head.
Or both.
Yeah,
well, you're right. So many people go to their deathbed with regrets. And one of the regrets can be, I never wrote that book.
Yeah.
In fact, some studies say that 80% of people want to write a book. But my experience is that a lot of people who are experts, such as yourself, you're an expert in dentistry and entrepreneurship and training and coaching and mentoring and a bunch of other things, I'm sure. You're too busy running your business to write a book. And so I'm really spreading the message as best I can that everybody deserves to turn their words into wealth, wisdom, and wonder, and that to really tease apart and separate the part of being the word wrangler with the part of having a story, having some expertise, having some life and business experience that is worth sharing. So I really want to break those apart because just like, you don't have to do everything with your podcast. You probably have somebody else who masters it and uploads it and this and that. It's the same with writing a book. If you've got stories that can help other people, then share them. And if you need help to do so, get some help.
Yeah, I read this statistic, and I don't know how accurate it is, but because I heard it from a ghostwriting agency, that a good 75% of books that are released by famous people are written by ghostwriters and writing literary coaches, etc. That surprised me. But you look at somebody that's the CEO of a company or a multi-billionaire or a musician or a famous actor or actress, they don't have the bandwidth to sit down and write a 400-page book or even a 200-page book.
Exactly.
So it actually makes a lot of sense.
Well, what's really cool now is that sort of everyday people, normal people that you and I would know or that we are can afford to take advantage of the ways that, the famous celebrities and politicians have always written books, which is with help. So Sir Winston Churchill, Sir Winston Churchill actually made most of his living by being a writer. Many people don't realize that. But he said some words that, changed the course of history. So good for him. But when he was writing, he was so in demand from newspapers and magazines. There was way more work than he could do. So what he did is he spoke his message to his secretary or his ghostwriter or his editor. He hired ghostwriters, and he only wrote about 1 in every 6 article that he wrote. And his books were long because he dictated them. Yeah. My clients are dictating or they're being interviewed by me at a pace of 8,000 words an hour. Wow. Most professional writers cannot write 8,000 words in a day, let alone an hour. So we can talk a lot faster than we can type or write. And if you can do what Sir Winston Churchill did, which is what I do with my clients, is talk out your ideas and then hand it to somebody who is an editor or a word wrangler or a ghost writer, or in his case, his secretary and in some events, and just have them understand what you're meaning and, go make the words make more sense, polish them up and delegate that. Then you can get on to your next book or to your next important task. If you are a professional dentist or lawyer or a doctor, or you're running a 6 or 7 or 8 figure business, you can't afford to do the things that, you can hire somebody to do. Why would you? You want somebody who's an expert at word wrangling to do it, just like you wouldn't want a beginning dentist necessarily working on your mouth who hasn't graduated yet. Yeah. The same, thank God to the internet and ghostwriting, you can hire people to help you. I have more to share, but I want to give you a chance to pop in here.
Yeah, for sure. I love the title of this book, Thought Leader Launch. Nowadays they call them influencers, and there's lots of different ways that people are creating audiences, I guess, and attention around their personal brand or their persona or their business. A lot of that nowadays is through social media, any number of different methods through social media. But back in the day, and I believe that still currently, it was getting on stages and being able to promote yourself through the written word or an actual physical book. I tell the story all the time that, in the beginning, when I wanted to become a quote unquote thought leader in dentistry, I had, what I believed were a lot of good lessons to teach people, but it wasn't, enough to drum up enough interest for me to get invited to speak on stages. It was a very, very close community of these of these event planners that worked with a very small handful of speakers, and you'd see the same speakers speaking over and over again at all of the different conferences, etc. And it just got very, very stale. But it was very hard to break in to that world. So we started having our own live events to like 80 people, before. And a lot of those people were seat stuffers, like friends of mine. Hey, just come and sit there so that I can say that I am a professional speaker and that I am a keynote. And then between that and writing a book and being able to offer your book to potential event planners, that's when things started slowly to build for our coaching and consulting business. And then the podcast just kind of threw things into overdrive. But it was, in the beginning, the book was a huge part of giving us the street cred to be able to say, hey, I am qualified to speak on this stuff. I'm qualified beyond, the other competition in my space to give my opinion.
Right. Well, having a degree like a DDS or a JD or an MBA is a certain kind of qualification, and having a book is another kind, because the root of the word authority is author. So, interesting to hear how your life changed after, your books came out, and that helped you get on stages. Before we started recording, I shared with you a little story. You said people would be interested. So one of the dentists that I helped them to write and produce their book are Janice and Justine Doan. They're in San Diego. Some people may know them. They were, voted top 40 under 40 dentists. And when I met them, they had a thriving dentistry practice making, about 1.5 million. So they were doing quite well and they were good experts, but they hadn't differentiated themselves. And they took my thought leader launch training, and then they said, hey, this is really good, but English is not even our first language. They came from Vietnam. And so I interviewed them and then turned that into a book. My team and I turned it into a book. So the interview process took them 2 days. And then they delegated it, and we worried about all the word wrangling. But one of the key things that I did before designing the book was understand what is their business like and who is their ideal client. So I learned quite a bit about dentistry, which was very interesting, and came to understand that their ideal client was actually somebody over 40 who needed, potentially root canals or veneers or whatever. And so that is why I proposed to them that we write a book called Keys to a Healthy Smile After 40, because that would position them as experts in San Diego. Hey, if you want a healthy smile after 40, go see Janice and Justine Doan at A+ Family Dentistry. And so understanding that helped me propose the right strategic book for achieving their goals. And as a result of, getting more clear in their message and getting their book published and getting media coverage, they've now, from what I understand, tripled their business. Well, more than tripled their business. So that's pretty good. About 6 million on track for that. So that's
4 times.
Pretty awesome. And it was so much fun. And I managed to work in, their story about being immigrating from Vietnam, which was a harrowing story. In fact, I think the book is really great. Keys to a Healthy Smile After 40. And, while I did interview them and my team and I, produced the book, only their name is on the book. It's just, I did my best to produce it and create something that reflected what they wanted, but it's their book. So nobody else's name on it. And when they received the book, they gave it to their parents who had sacrificed so much for them to come to America from Vietnam. And their mother cried and they cried. They're like, this is just life-changing. We had a chance to really honor what our parents did for us. And this book is a way of, paying it forward. So it was very satisfying to them.
That's
kind
awesome.
To me. Yeah.
Sounds amazing. So how long does I have several questions, but how long does the process take from beginning to end if they are actually speaking the book to you or your team?
Well, it depends. It's kind of like, how good do you want it to be? So my company, Same Page Publishing, specializes in helping people who want a book to go deep as well as to represent their brand and achieve their business goals. So I have done it with many clients. Just we we have a number of calls up front. I train them certain factors. I give them, they come to my events or they watch videos, and then I'll interview them for a day or two. So I also did that with Dr. Jennifer Herrera, who is the founder of 4 charter schools in your neighborhood in Arizona.
Cool.
So she was really passionate about educating children, and she had 100% success ratio in getting high school kids into college.
Wow.
So that was, really important to her and worthwhile writing a book. And she I was then in San Francisco, and I interviewed her for 2 days and then, delegated it to my team and we produced the book. Another way of doing it, rather than like weekend intensive, that I really like for different reasons, is more of a reflective process. So with those clients, I'll talk to them once a week, and we will gradually go deeper and deeper. It's sort of like all the benefits of psychotherapy, as you can, reframe your past and dig out the gold, with all the benefits of book writing. So it really depends on how quickly somebody wants the book and how interested they are in making the book as profound as they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's talk about Janice and Justine for a second. Once it was produced and they had a finished product, how did they utilize that to build their patient base and to attract the right patient base? Did they advertise the book for sale, or did they just hand it out to their existing patient base and had them distribute it? What exactly is a good strategy for that?
I'll have to interview them again to get all the details of what they did. Primarily, I believe they handed out books to their existing clients because, probably like many dentists, so here I'm on shaky ground because I'm not a dentist expert by any stretch, but referrals were a key part of their business. Their patients really liked them. But, it's one thing saying, hey, I really like my dentist, go see my dentist. Or here's a book my dentist wrote. Check it out. That's a whole accelerator for referrals, because a book, unlike a business card or unlike a brochure, people keep books. They hand on books. They pass out books. Or the other way that a book can really be used is as a referral mechanism is, my client, my dentist has got this book, Keys to a Healthy Smile After 40, and it's on Amazon right here. And then anybody can see it around the world. They also it changed. They had already been voted top 40 under 40, or I believe it was Justine Doan who had that honor before her book came out. But when they were at conferences with other dentists and they brought their books, they were greeted like celebrities. There were many celebrities in their crowd, so they're kind of blown away by. People want my autograph. It's like so cool. You've probably experienced that many times, Mark, with your books. But it's very satisfying to have somebody ask you for an autograph.
Yeah, it is. It's a trip.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you autographed your book?
Yeah, I have a friend that actually was with me at the time, and I was at a conference, and somebody brought it up to me, and I got down on a knee and I signed it. He took a picture. And he's like, hey, that's the very first time anybody's ever asked you for your autograph. I think you'll want this picture someday. But yeah, it is. It's very interesting how powerful, once you put your words on paper and have a physical representation of kind of your body of work.
Yeah,
that means to other people, especially people that take the time to read it.
Yeah,
and
we also.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, you said that about 2/3 of that book. That you wrote for Janice and Justine was about their background and their history, not necessarily about dentistry, but it seems to me that is something worth kind of digging a little bit deeper into.
I found their story was fascinating. It was like the hero's story. It was so heart-wrenching. I'm like, this should be a movie. They grew up in Vietnam. Their father was on the wrong side, so things were not going to look very good for them. The deck was stacked against them. And so they decided to escape. So they, the mother, the father, the 2 daughters, I think they were like 4 and 7 or something like that. They were escorted out, and they crept out like through the forest down to the beach, very quiet. I have to wait till 3 a.m. It's really dark, crept onto the boat. Then they're on this boat with all kinds of other people and really no food and no toilet. So they're, peeing in a can and eating really, nothing. No gourmet food was being served. No Cliff Bars either. And for 3 days and nights, the 4 of them were on this boat.
Wow.
And then they were captured. They were captured and they went back to the beginning.
Wow, that is crazy.
I know. So that was just part of the story. And then it continues. And oh my gosh, it was lots of highs and lows and dramatic. And I believe that people, it's important to have a blend of humanity and expertise. And when people know that you have expertise at being a dentist or being a lawyer or an entrepreneur or whatever you're up to, but then they want to know, well, who are you as a person? And that's where people, we fall in love with people who are flawed and human and real. And I think also it's important, especially, dentistry, also lawyers. It's a difficult profession, and it's cool if your patients or your clients know who you are and are drawn to that. I mean, you probably had that as well, Mark, after people read your book, your first one, Pillars of Dental Success. They probably came up to you saying, hey, I'm just like you. I also fill in the blank. Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It happens a lot. A lot of people say I resonate with your story.
Yeah.
A lot of people that have had, ADD and people that have had attention or learning issues like I did growing up. Was a big part. It's a leap of faith, it's putting yourself out there and being vulnerable is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But, when you get that feedback that, hey, thank you for having the courage to put this out there. I can really resonate with this. I've experienced the same challenges in my life. Thank you. That is, it's all the, all the reinforcement that you need to know that you did the right thing,
Well, it's entirely possible that some people read your book and went, oh, well, if Mark can be successful in spite of learning difficulties, I can too. You may have changed the trajectory of many people's lives and given them hope. Because if we don't have any hope, we stop.
Yeah, it's
right?
true. It's true.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your story, Aurora. How did you get into the business of helping people tell their life story?
I love it. I absolutely love it. So my story starts when I was about 9. And I was reading C.S. Lewis's books, start with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And there's a whole series, the Narnia series. Yep. And I remember the moment when I reached on the tippy toes, in the school library to reach down the last book in the series. And I had such an excitement because, another book. And then I also had anticipatory dread because it was the last book in the series. And in that moment, I decided I would do everything that I could to be a great writer like C.S. Lewis, because I couldn't imagine anything more magical than being able to transport people to another place, another time, and have little dots of black ink on white paper, be like telepathy, and be like the best movie, that can just entrance somebody and give them such wonder and delight. So that really moved me as a child. And then fast forward to university, I told my father, who was an academic, he was the chairman of a department at the University of British Columbia. After my first year of taking a variety of courses, I said, I know what I want to do. I want to major in English. And he's like, don't be ridiculous. Do something sensible. So I majored in economics and I put my dreams of being a writer on the shelf because everybody told me what most people are told. Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the dream wouldn't die. And I found a way to combine being an author with helping others. And I've written, a number of screenplays and a number of books. And for me, every time I hit a stumbling block in my personal or professional life, every time it was communication that was the problem, or lack thereof, or ineffective communication. And every time I had a breakthrough to the next level, it was communication. So, I've studied all kinds of communication, from nonviolent communication to coaching communication to empathy to the written word or how to write movies. I'm fascinated with communication. I'm kind of obsessed with communication, to be honest. And so what I'm really good at, perhaps unique, is I take all of my entrepreneurial background and I cross-pollinate it with all of my movie and writing background. And I help entrepreneurs find the right message that will build their business, build their brand, and help them achieve their goals, whether their goals are more internal or more external. So right now I have a lawyer client, Michael Stockham, and his book's called Confessions of an Accidental Lawyer. Doesn't that just make you want to read it?
Yes.
It's like, what are those confessions? And so that is part of his launching his speaking career, but it's also been very interesting for him to look at his confessions. So could also make a really great movie.
Yeah, that's a good title. It makes me want to read it. And I'm
good with the titles.
Yeah. What do most of us humans do wrong when we're communicating, and why do we find it so difficult? Not just service providers, not just professionals, but why do humans in general have such a hard time communicating with one another?
2 reasons. 1, we fail to put the spotlight on the other person.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I'm sure you've heard that for a reason. So when we communicate with the intention of helping the other person, it's going to go much better. And so many of us are so eager to say all about us that we're missing something right out the gate. The second reason is a little more academic, that people haven't studied neuroscience. So it really serves everybody to understand neuroscience. And that's one of the things I wrote about in my book, Turn Words into Wealth. I broke that down. But we imagine, we've been mistrained from university. We imagine that if we send somebody the verbal equivalent of an Excel spreadsheet, that they, being a smart person, will open it with Excel and understand our message. But in fact, it doesn't work that way. And let me tell you a little story to demonstrate that.
Sure.
And also demonstrate neuroscience. So imagine if you were a knight on a beautiful white horse and you have a message for the king and queen of the neighboring kingdom. So you gallop across the fields and you arrive at with your message, from your king. And did the king and queen, are they outside? No, they're not outside. The castle door open? No, it's closed. And there is a moat around it and there are crocodiles. So the crocodile represents our ancient reptilian brain. So before you get the message to the king and queen, you have to get past the crocodiles in order to get the drawbridge down. What is the crocodile? It's very simple. It's like, is this bright and shiny object? Is this something good to mate with? Is this something good to eat? Like, it's a little soundbite, a little something that you want to enjoy. Okay, so you have to give the croc brain a little something. We're going to talk about exactly. Okay, so if you pass the croc brain's test for, hey, there's something interesting happening here, then the drawbridge comes in. Okay, so then Mark, you trot across on your beautiful white steed. Are the king and queen at the other side of the drawbridge? Of course not. They're not there. They're in the central castle, right on their throne. There are other people there, though, right? There are nobles and there is a stable person to take your horse. Well, what do? Well, the midbrain is the social brain. It's the sniff test. It's like, who are you? Who are you from? Are you low status? Are you high status? Is this a fancy horse or is this a donkey? Do you have a nice attire or poor attire? Do you look like a bum or do you look like somebody respectable? Okay, well, that's the second test. If we pass that test, then and only then you may be led into the chamber and have a chance to speak to the king and the queen. I know this is oversimplifying, but imagine the Game of Thrones. Like, you would not go in and talk to, Cersei and go on for a half an hour, right? You need to have little sound bites and then see if the person's engaged and then tell them a little bit more. And this isn't exactly how the brain works, but to oversimplify, if you imagine the right and the left hemisphere, that one is logical and analytical and likes numbers and data, and the other side is storytelling. If you can talk to both the king and the queen alternating, that will work best. So how to communicate and not sabotage yourself is to understand to go in that sequence, right? So first, little something, that's attractive, that's valuable. And that's not just the same as every other message that the crocodile has heard, because then you just get eaten before the drawbridge comes down. And then some social context, that people like us do things like this, like my interview valet sent me to you. So that's already social context. Or you and I talked about Janice and Justine Doan, other dentists, that's social context. And then the king and queen. So don't be sending the Excel spreadsheet before taking the other steps. Does that make sense, Mark?
Yeah, I love that. I really, really do. It's interesting because I feel like I'm comfortable enough saying this to our audience now and this goes right along what you're saying. If we lead with something like, double your net worth in your dental practice in the next 12 months, that's the clickbait. We call it a Trojan horse, right? It's like the Trojan horse is coming in. You're going to learn about money, how to be rich. That is the thing that gets people salivating and interested, right? But, once they get into the gates, we climb out of our Trojan horse. And we're talking about, mind, meaning, muscle, and money, creating a composite human being. And unless you can create that composite human being that has good relationships, knows how to handle stress, is physically fit, puts the right fuel in their body, gets the right amount of sleep, then we can start talking about how to double your income. Because if the rest of those 3 quadrants are insufficient, then making money doesn't mean anything, So we call that kind of the Trojan horse. That's your reptilian brain. I love that analogy of the white knight. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's really important to handle things in that order too, right? If you go right to the analytics of everything, you're gonna lose people. And if you do it that way, even if you don't lose them, they'll consume that little bit. And there's a lot of meat on the bone that you've missed out on, I guess.
Well, and Trojan horse may have a bad association for some people, but when you attract their attention with something that they know that they want, mm-hmm. and then you deliver that as well as the composite human being that they would go, what's a composite human being? Like, it wouldn't be like an immediate, I know I want to be a composite human being, but they need that. What did you just say? It was quite nice. Mind, muscle.
Yeah, we call it the 4 futures. It's mind, meaning, muscle, and then money is the 4th quadrant that we work.
Mind, meaning, muscle, and money. That's really nice.
Thank you.
So you deliver what you promised and what they really need. You get that. Exactly right. Yeah. But if you don't get attention, you got nothing.
That's true. It's true. Yeah. You got to get in the door first, just like you said. You got to lower the drawbridge first, or else you're just going to be stuck on the other side of the moat.
And you just get snapped at.
And that concludes part 1 of my interview with Aurora Winter. Very, very interesting interview. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow for part 2. Talk to you then. This episode is being brought to you by Large Practice Sales. Large Practice Sales helps doctors of all ages and specialties monetize a part of their practice with a silent partner. How does it work? National groups purchase between 51% to 90% of a practice for cash up front, and the doctor remains an owner leading their practice under their brand, team, and strategy. Doctors benefit from the resources of a larger partner to grow bigger, faster, and more profitably. Contact Large Practice Sales, or LPS, today to confidentially discover your practice's value in an IDSO partnership at no cost, without obligation. Just call 844-976-5332. That's 844-976-5332. Or visit largepracticesales.com/dentalpreneur. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dentalpreneur Podcast. Look forward to reconnecting on the next episode.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Dentalpreneur Podcast. Check out TrueDentalSuccess.com for full recaps of every show, a schedule of our live events, free video tutorials, and a whole host of practice building resources.